Jai Sitaram. The wretch tried every kind of threat and endearment but failed miserably. At last he kept her under an ashok tree, strongly guarded. Having impressed on her heart the beautiful image of Sri Ram as he appeared while running in pursuit of the false deer, Sita incessantly repeated Sri Hari's name. When the Lord of Raghus saw his younger brother coming, he outwardly expressed much concern. Alas, you have left Janak's daughter alone and come here against my instructions. Hosts of demons are roaming about in the forest. I therefore suspect Sita is not at the hermitage. Lakshman clasped Sri Ram's lotus feet and replied with joined palms, Lord, it is no fault of mine. Accompanied by his younger brother, the Lord went back to his hermitage on the bank of the Godavari. When he saw the hermitage bereft of Janak's daughter, he felt as perturbed and afflicted as any common man. Alas, Sita, Janak's daughter, the very mine of virtues, of such flawless beauty, character, austerity, and devotion. Lakshman consoled him in many ways. He questioned all the creepers and trees that stood on the way as he went along in search of her. O birds and deer, O string of bees, have you seen the fawn-eyed Sita? The wagtail, the parrot, the pigeon, the deer, the fish, the swarms of bees, the clever cuckoo, the jasmine buds, the pomegranate, the lightning, the lotus, the autumnal moon, the gliding serpent, the noose of Varun, the god of water, the bow of Cupid, the swan, the elephant, and the lion now hear themselves praised. The bilva fruit and the gold banana rejoice and do not feel the least misgiving or bashfulness. Listen, Janak's daughter, in your absence today, they are all glad as if they have got a kingdom. How can you bear such rivalry? Why do you not reveal yourself quickly, my darling? In this way, the Lord surged and lamented like an uxorious husband, sore smitten with pangs of separation. Sri Ram, who is bliss personified and has all his wishes accomplished, and who is both unborn and immortal, behaved like a mortal. Further on, they saw the king of vultures lying with his thoughts fixed on Sri Ram's feet, which bear characteristic marks on their soles. The hero of Raghu's line, the ocean of mercy, caressed Jatayu's head with his lotus hands. As the bird gazed on Sri Ram's countenance, the home of loveliness, all his pain disappeared. The vulture now recovered himself and spoke as follows. Listen, Ram, the allayer of the fear of transmigration. It was the 10-headed Ravan, my lord, who reduced me to this plight. It was the same wretch who carried off Janak's daughter. He took her away, holy sir, to the south while she kept screaming loudly as an osprey. I have survived, my lord, only to behold you. My life now is about to depart. O fountain of mercy, said Sri Ram, live yet more, dear one. He, however, replied with a smile on his countenance, he whose very name, so declare the Veds, redeems the most depraved soul, even if it appears on his lips at the moment of his death, is present before me in a visible form. What more is wanting now for which I should retain my body any longer? With his eyes full of tears, the Lord of Raghus replied, Dear father, you have attained to an enviable state by virtue of your own noble deeds. Nothing is difficult of attainment in this world to those who have others' interests at heart. Casting off your body, dear father, proceed now to my divine abode. What shall I give you when you have all your desires already accomplished? But on reaching there, sire, tell not my father about Sita's abduction. If I am no other than Ram, if I am what I am, the 10-headed Ravan and his whole house will go and say everything to him. The vulture now dropped his body and assumed Sri Hari's own form, bedecked with many jewels and clad in a yellow attire of matchless splendor, and possessed of a dark hue and 4 long arms. And with his eyes full of tears, he burst into praises of his Lord. Glory to Sri Ram of incomparable beauty, who is absolute as well as qualified and the true impeller of gunas, Maya too. His fierce arrows are potent enough to cut off the terrible arms of the 10-headed Ravan. I incessantly adored the all-merciful Sri Ram, the ornament of the earth, who is endowed with a form dark as the rain cloud, a face resembling the blue lotus and large eyes resembling the red lotus. Possessed of long arms, he rids his devotees of the fear of transmigration. His strength is immeasurable. He is without beginning and unborn, the one without a second, unmanifest and imperceptible, beyond the reach of the senses, though attainable with the help of the Vedic hymns, the dispeller of pairs of opposites such as joy and sorrow, birth and death, pleasure and pain, etc. Consciousness personified, the supporter of the earth, the delighter of the soul of countless saints and devotees who repeat the sacred name of Ram. I ever extol Sri Ram, who loves and is loved by those who are free from desire, and curbs the host of vicious propensities such as lust and so on. He whom the Vedas glorify under the name of Brahma, pure, free from the taint of Maya, all pervading, passionless, and unborn, whom the sages attain to through many manifold practices such as meditation, discretion, dispassion, and yoga, that fountain of mercy has become manifest as the very incarnation of beauty and enraptures the whole animate and inanimate creation. He is the bee that resides in the lotus of my heart, and through every limb of his shines the splendor of many a god of love. He at once inaccessible and easily accessible, who has a guileless disposition and is both partial and impartial and ever placid, whom the yogis perceive with great effort subduing their senses and mind, that Ram, the abode of Ram, goddess Lakshmi, and the lord of the three spheres, the entire creation, is ever at the beck and call of his devotees. May he abide in my heart, whose holy praises put a stop to transmigration. Asking the boon of uninterrupted devotion, the vulture Jatayu ascended to Sri Hari's abode. Sri Ram performed his funeral rites with due ceremony and his own hands. The Lord of Raghus is most tender-hearted and compassionate to the humble, and shows his mercy even where there is no occasion for it. On a vulture, who is a most unclean and carnivorous bird, he conferred a state which is solicited even by yogis. Listen, Uma. Those people are unfortunate indeed who abandon Sri Hari and become attached to the object of sense. The two brothers proceeded further in quest of Sita and marked the thickening of the forest even as they went. The thicket was full of creepers and trees and inhabited by many birds and deer, elephants and lions. Sri Ram overthrew the demon Kabandh even as the latter met him on the way. He told him the whole story about the curse pronounced on him. The sage Durvasa and had imprecated me. The sin has now been wiped out by the sight of the Lord's feet. Listen, O Gandharva, to what I tell you. I cannot tolerate an enemy of the Brahmans. He who without guile in thought, word and deed does service to the Brahmans, the very gods on earth, wins over Brahma, Shiva, myself, and all other divinities. A Brahman, even though he curses you, beat you, or speak harsh words to you, is still worthy of adoration, so declare the saints. A Brahman must be respected, though lacking in amiability and virtue, not so a Shudra, though possessing a host of virtues and rich in knowledge. The Lord instructed Kabandha in his own cult, the cult of devotion, and was delighted at heart to see his devotion to his feet. Having regained his original form, that of a Gandharva, he bowed his head to the lotus feet of Sri Ram, the Lord of Raghus, and ascended to the heaven. Having conferred on him his own Gandharva state, the beneficent Ram repaired to the hermitage of Shabri. When Shabri saw that Sri Ram had called at her abode, she recalled the words of the sage Matanga and was glad of heart. With lotus-like eyes, long arms, a tuft of matted hair adorning their head like a crown, and a garland of wild flowers hanging upon their breasts, the two brothers looked most charming. The one dark of hue and the other fair, Shabri fell prostrate and embraced their feet. She was so overwhelmed with love that no words came to her lips. Again and again she bowed her head at their lotus feet. Presently she took some water and reverently laved their feet and then conducted them to a seat of honor. She brought and offered to Sri Ram the most delicious bulbs, roots, and fruits. The Lord partook of them, appreciating again and again. Joining her palms, she stood before him. As she gazed upon the Lord, her love waxed yet more ardent. How can I extol you, lowest in descent and the dullest of wit as I am? A woman is the lowest of those who rank as the lowest of the low. Of women, again, I am the most dull-headed, O destroyer of sins. Answered the Lord of Raghus, listen, O good lady, to my words I recognize no other kinship except that of devotion. Despite caste, kinship, lineage, dharma, reputation, wealth, physical strength, numerical strength of his family, accomplishments, and ability, a man lacking in devotion is of no more worth than a cloud without water. Now I tell you the 9 forms of devotion. Please listen attentively and cherish them in your mind. The first in order is company with the saints, and the second is marked by fondness for my stories. Humble service of the lotus feet of one's preceptor is the third form of devotion, while the fourth type of devotion consists in singing my praises with a guileless heart. Muttering my name with unwavering faith constitutes the fifth form of adoration revealed in the Vedas. The sixth variety consists of the practice of self-control and virtue, desisting from manifold activities and even pursuing the course of conduct prescribed for saints. He who practices the 7 types sees the world full of me without distinction and reckons the saints as even greater than myself. He who cultivates the 8th type of devotion remains contented with whatever he gets and never thinks of detecting others' faults. The 9th form of devotion demands that one should be guileless and straight in one's dealings with everybody, and should in his heart cherish implicit faith in me without either exultation or depression. Whoever possesses any one of these 9 forms of devotion, be he man or woman or any other creature, sentient or insentient, is most dear to me. O good lady, as for yourself, you are blessed with unflinching devotion of all these types. The prize, which is hardly won by the yogis, is within your easy reach today. The most incomparable fruit of seeing me is that the soul attains its natural state. If you know anything about Janak's daughter, my good lady, tell me her news, O fair dame. Go to the Pampa lake, O Lord of Raghus, there you will make friends with Sugriv. He will tell you everything, my Lord Ram, hero of Raghu's line. You are of steady resolve and know everything. Nevertheless, you ask me. Bowing her head at the Lord's feet again and again, she lovingly related the whole story of what the sage Matanga had told her and how eagerly she had watched his approach all the time. After telling the whole story, she gazed on the Lord's countenance and imprinted the image of his lotus feet on her heart. And casting her body in the fire of yoga, she entered Sri Hari's state, wherefrom there is no return. O men, abandon your varied activities, sins, and diverse trees, which all give birth to sorrow, and with genuine faith, says Tulsidas, be devoted to the feet of Sri Ram. The Lord conferred final beatitude even on a woman who was not only an outcast but a very mind of sin. You seek happiness, my most foolish mind, by forgetting such a master. Sri Ram left even that forest and proceeding further. The 2 brothers were lions among men and possessed immeasurable strength. The Lord lamented like one smitten with pangs of separation. He narrated stories and had many a dialogue with Lakshman. Lakshman, mark the beauty of the forest, whose heart will not be stirred at its sight. United with their mate All the swarms of birds and herds of deer are reproaching me as it were. When the bucks see me and scamper away in fear, their mates would stop them, saying, "You have nothing to fear. You may enjoy yourselves at will. O progeny of deer, he has come in search of a gold deer." The elephants would take their mates along with them, as if to teach me a lesson that a man should never leave his wife alone. The sacred lore, however thoroughly studied, must be gone through over and over again. A king, however well served, should never be depended upon, and a woman's scriptures and the king, even though you may cherish her in your bosom, is never thoroughly mastered. See, brother, how pleasant the spring is, yet to me, bereft of my beloved, it is frightful. When the god of love found me tortured by separation, languishing and all alone, he rushed against me and with the verdant forest, bees and birds for his army. His spy, the wind, however, has seen me with my brother, and on his report the mind-born Cupid has held up his advancing army and besieged me as it were. Creepers have entwined themselves round gigantic trees, spreading as it were a variety of canopies in the sky. The plantains and stately palms are standing like beautiful pennants and standards. He alone who is stout of heart could help being fascinated by their sight. Trees of every description are adorned with flowers of various kinds, like warriors arrayed in all their different kinds of panoply. Other beautiful trees standing here and there look charming, like champions separately encamped. The murmuring cuckoos are his excited elephants, herons and rooks, his camels and mules, peacocks, chakors and parrots, his noble war horses, the pigeons and swans, his Arab steeds, the partridges and quails, his foot soldiers. But there is no describing the whole host of Cupid. Mountain rocks are his chariots, the rills, his kettle drums, the Kathā, the bards that utter his praises. The garrulous bees are his trumpets and clarinets, and the soft, cool, and fragrant breezes have come in the capacity of his ambassadors. Accompanied by an army complete in all its four limbs, viz. The horse, the foot, the chariots, and the elephants, he goes about challenging all to a combat. Lakshmana, they who remain firm even at the sight of Cupid's battle array, are men that count in this world. His greatest strength lies in woman. He alone who can escape her is a mighty champion. Brother, there are three evils most formidable of all: lust, anger, and greed. In an instant they distract the mind of hermits, who are the very repositories of wisdom. The weapons of greed are desire and hypocrisy, of lust naught but woman, while anger's weapon is harsh speech, so declare the great sages after deep thought. Sri Ram, dear Uma, says Bhagavan Shiv, is beyond the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas gun, though the lord of the animate and inanimate creation and the inner controller of all. By speaking as above, he demonstrated the miserable plight of earthly lovers and strengthened dispassion in the mind of the wise. Anger, lust, greed, pride, and delusion, all these get eliminated through Sri Ram's grace. He who wins the favor of the divine player is never deluded by his jugglery. Uma, I tell you my own realization, the only thing real is worship of Sri Ram, and the whole world is a dream. The Lord then repaired to the shore of the deep and beautiful lake known by the name of Pampa. Its water was as limpid as the heart of saints, and it had charming flights of steps on all its four sides. Beasts of various kinds drank of its water wherever they listed, as if there was a crowd of beggars ever present at the house of a generous man. Covered by dense lotus leaves, the water could not be easily discerned, even as the attributeless Brahma is not perceived when veiled by Maya, ignorance. All the fishes that had their abode in the fathomless water of the lake were uniformly happy, even as the virtuous ever passed their days peacefully. Lotuses of different colors had opened their petals, and swarms of bees sweetly hummed. Swans and waterfowls made such a noise as though they had burst into the Lord's praises the moment they saw him. Birds like the chakravak and the heron were lovely beyond words. One could form an idea of their beauty only after seeing them. The voice of the beautiful birds was so captivating that it seemed they invited the wayfarers who passed by them. By the side of the lake, hermits had erected their thatched cottages. There were charming forest trees all around: the champak, the bakul, the kadam, the tamal, the pathal, the panas, the palash, the mango, and many other varieties of trees had put forth new leaves and blossoms, and swarms of bees hummed on them. A delightful breeze, which was naturally cool, gentle, and fragrant, ever breathed there. The cuckoos cooed so sweetly that their melody disturbed the hermits in their meditation. Weighed down with the load of their fruits, all the fruit trees well nigh touched the ground, even as benevolent souls grow all the more humble on getting a large fortune. When Sri Ram saw this most beautiful lake, he took a dip into it and felt supremely delighted. Seeing the pleasant shade of a stately tree, the Lord of Raghus sat in it with his younger brother. There all the gods and sages came once more, and having hymned his praises, returned to their several homes. The All-Merciful sat in a most cheerful mood and discoursed with his younger brother on delightful topics. When the sage Narad saw the Lord suffering the pangs of separation, he felt much perturbed at heart. It is in submission to my curse that the Lord is undergoing many hardships of an oppressive nature. Let me therefore go and see such a noble Lord, for such an opportunity may not present itself again. Reflecting thus, Narad went, lute in hand, to the spot where the Lord was sitting at ease. He fondly sang in a soft voice the exploits of Sri Ram, dwelling upon them in all detail. As he prostrated himself, the Lord lifted him up and held him in his embrace for a very long time. After inquiring of his welfare, he seated him by his side, while Lakshman reverently laved his feet. After much supplication and realizing that the Lord was pleased at heart, Narad joined his lotus palms and spoke as follows. Listen, O Lord of Raghus, generous by nature as you are, you confer delightful boons that are unattainable as well as those that are attainable. Grant me, my master, only one boon that I ask of you, even though you already know it, even without my asking. Indwelling as you do the hearts of all. You know my disposition, dear sage. Do I ever hide anything from my devotees? What object do I hold so dear, O chief of sages, that you may not ask it of me? There is nothing which I may withhold from my votary. Never give up this belief, even by mistake. Then Narad gladly said, This is the boon I presume to ask, even though my Lord has many names, each greater than the other, as the Veds declare. Let the name Ram, my Lord, surpass all other names in exterminating the whole brood of sins, even as a fowler kills an entire flock of birds. May the name Ram shine as the moon and the other names as so many stars in the cloudless sky of your devotee's heart during the full moon night of devotion to you. The all-merciful Lord of Raghus replied to the sage, So be it. Thereupon Narad felt much delighted at heart and bowed at the Lord's feet. Seeing the Lord of Raghus so highly pleased, Narad spoke again in gentle tones. Listen, O Ram, when you impelled your Maya, deluding potency, and infatuated me, O Lord of Raghus, I wanted to marry. Why then did you not let me accomplish my desire? Listen, O sage, I tell you with all the emphasis at my command that I always take care of those who worship me with undivided faith. Even as a mother guards her child, if an infant child runs to catch hold of fire or a snake, the mother holds it aside. When, however, her son has grown up, she loves him no doubt, but not as before. The wise are like my grown-up sons, while humble devotees are like my infant children. A devotee depends on me, while the former, a wise man, depends on his own strength, and both have to face enemies like lust and anger. Pondering thus, the prudent adore me and never take leave of devotion even after attaining wisdom. Lust, anger, greed, pride, etc. constitute the most powerful army of ignorance. But among them all the fiercest and the most troublesome is that incarnation of Maya, the Lord's deluding potency, called woman. Listen, O sage, the Purans, the Veds, and the saints declare that woman is like the vernal season to the forest of ignorance. Nay, like the hot season, she dries up all the ponds and lakes of jap, the muttering of prayers, austerity, and religious observances. Again, lust, anger, pride, and jealousy are so many frogs as it were. Like the rainy season, woman is the only agency that gladdens them all. Even so, latent desires of a vicious type are like a bed of lilies to which, like the autumn, she is ever agreeable. All the different virtues are like a bed of lotuses, like the middle of winter woman who is a source of base, sensuous pleasure, blights them all. Again, the overgrowth of the Yavas plant in the shape of mindness flourishes when the close of winter in the shape of woman appears. For owls in the shape of sins, woman is a delightful night thick with darkness. Even so, reason, strength, virtue, and truth are all so many fishes as it were, and woman, so declare the wise, is like a hook to catch them. A young woman is the root of all evil, a source of torment, and a mine of all woes. Therefore, bearing this in mind, O sage, I prevented your marriage. As the sage listened to the delightful words of Sri Ram, the Lord of Raghus, a thrill ran through his body and his eyes filled with tears. He said to himself, "Tell me, is there any other master whose wont it is to show such attachment and fondness for his servants? Men who refuse to worship such a Lord, shaking off all delusion, are bankrupt of wisdom, dull witted and wretched." The sage Narad again reverentially spoke to the Lord, "Listen, O Ram, who are well versed in sacred lore, tell me, my Lord Raghuveer, hero of Raghu's line, the distinguishing marks of saints, O dispeller of the fear of transmigration. I tell you, dear sage, the qualities of saints, by virtue of which they hold me in subjection. They are masters of the six passions: lust, anger, greed, infatuation, pride, and jealousy. Sinless, disinterested, firm, possessing nothing, pure, both within and without, full of bliss, of boundless wisdom, desireless, moderate in diet, truthful, inspired, learned, and united with God, circumspect, bestowing honor on others, free from pride, strong minded, and highly conversant with the course of dharma, righteousness. They are abodes of virtue above the sorrows of the world and free from doubt. Nothing besides my lotus feet is dear to them, not even their body, nor their home. They blush to hear themselves praised, but feel much delighted to hear others' praises. Even minded and placid, they never abandon the right course. Guileless by nature and loving, they are given over to prayer, austerity, control of the senses, self denial, and religious observances, and undertake sacred vows. They are devoted to the feet of their Guru, Lord Govind, Vishnu, and the Brahmans. They are full of piety, forgiving, friendly to all, compassionate, cheerful under all circumstances, and sincerely devoted to my feet. They are further characterized by dispassion, discretion, modesty, knowledge of the truth relating to God, as well as by a correct knowledge of the Veds and Purans. They never take recourse to hypocrisy, pride, or arrogance, nor set their foot on the evil path, even by mistake. They are ever engaged in singing or hearing my stories, and are intent on doing good to others without any consideration. In short, O good sage, the qualities of the saints are so numerous that they cannot be exhausted even by Sharda, the goddess of speech, nor by the Veds. Neither Sharda nor Shesh could tell them, even as he heard this. The sage Narad clasped the Lord's lotus feet. In this way, the all-merciful Lord, the befriender of the meek, recounted with his own lips the virtues of his devotees. Narad bowed his head at the Lord's feet again and left for the abode of Brahma, the Creator. Blessed are they, says Tulsidas, who, giving up all hopes, are steeped in the love of Sri Hari. People who sing or hear the sanctifying praises of Ravan's foe shall be rewarded with steadfast devotion to Sri Ram even without dispassion, jap or concentration of mind. The body of a young woman is like the flame of a candle. Be not a moth to it, O my mind. Abandoning lust and pride, worship Sri Ram and enjoy the company of saints. Iti Sri Ramcharit Manase Sakala Kalikalashu Vidvansane Tritiya Sopanah Samapta. Pause 22 for a 30-day recitation. Thus ends the third descent into the Manas lake of Sri Ram's exploits that eradicates all the impurities of the Kali age. Jai Sri Ram.